So what are your kind of, I guess, favorite KPIs to measure the performance of your team, but also as a whole, but also individuals?
I think that it comes back to my comments earlier that there are different types of measures, and absolutely, yeah, I've not taken on some kind of new world hippie type lifestyle to managing a business. There are still the key metrics that are required for me to know whether the business is performing or not. So I have the same standard measures around work throughput, work in progress, effectiveness and efficiency and so on, just as anybody else. So yeah, I know what my abandonment rate is in my centres. I know what my first contact resolution is. I know all those things are outputs, and they're key for me to understand whether the business is performing well or not. And that's terrific. But they are just that. They are outputs. They are the tools that allow me to measure. I have to choose with that information, what am I going to do if I need to change anything? And the change that has come in my time in my role now at Ring Central has been one that's moved away from, okay, my first contact resolution has dipped by 1% or whatever the number might be. And so now I'm going to go and check what it is in the process, what the drivers are that caused that drop, and look at that in isolation. Whereas now, whilst that is still relevant to me, what's equally relevant to me is how were the people on those days? What happened? Was there a change in mood? Did the weather change? And it all sounds ridiculous because I can't change the weather, for example. But ultimately, what I can be aware of is that if the general mood within my team is dipping, I can be pretty confident I'm going to see a similar dip in the outputs that are my business measures. And so it comes back again to my point that happy staff, happy customers, well, happy staff, happier metrics. It's becoming a real success for us. And I was very fortunate enough in my time working in my previous company that I was employed by a managing director whose whole focus was, I'm not interested in your input, I'm interested in your output. Well, that was great for him because he wanted to see how the business was being operated. I was far more interested in the input because that was what was going to affect the output. And so, some of these metrics, some of the things that I like to measure, are subjective. But as I touched on earlier, employee engagement, employee satisfaction are things that you need to find a way of measuring, and that can be done through regular temperature checks, through more formal employee engagement surveys, and certainly as we've gone through the dreadful last 18 months of a pandemic, as a director of this area of our business, it's become more and more important for me that I speak to not just my direct reports, but their direct reports and their direct reports on a regular basis, to do nothing more than just check in and say, how are you?